There was a lot of back and forth today, but the worst standoff between the West and Russia shows no signs of easing. The worst standoff since the Cold War, of course. Now, the Russians were tightening their grip in the province of Crimea today, apparently settling in for an extended stay. There were reports that they were mobilizing more of their forces on the Russian side of the Ukrainian border. They denied they were threatening those Ukrainian ships on the Black Sea. But again, every indication is the Russians are trying to at least increase their grip in Crimea. This is all, of course, their response to the ouster of the Russian-backed President Viktor Yanukovych in the Ukraine. The Russians insist that they are simply protecting their own interests there, protecting Russian speakers, Russian citizens in Ukraine. But again, the European Union and the United States responding, condemning the action so far. And the president, again, urging Vladimir Putin to back down or face the prospects of international isolation. He spoke at the White House.
If, in fact, they continue on the current trajectory that they're on, that we are examining a whole series of steps, economic, diplomatic, that will isolate Russia and will have a negative impact on Russia's economy and its status in the world.
And already a negative impact on the Russian economy today, the drop in the ruble. The next move by the United States, Secretary of State John Kerry will head to Kiev this evening to show solidarity, support for the new Ukrainian government there. A symbolic show of support, but perhaps more to come, Pim. The United States still making the promise of financial support to Ukraine as part of a larger package headed up by the IMF, but the details still being worked out on that.
Well, Peter, you got Russian troops on one side. What about leverage on the U.S. side? Is there any leverage that the United States has?
Well, there's not a whole lot of leverage other than the isolation the president talked about and the threat of economic sanctions. Military force, military action, not even on the table. No one in the U.S. Side is talking about that. But the president does believe smart diplomacy and economic sanctions can make some difference. According to White House officials, the immediate steps here, they're suspending, of course, preparations for that G8 meeting planned in Sochi. It's not going to happen. They're canceling trade and commercial talks planned between the U.S. and Russia here for this week and next week. Those are off the table. In the medium term, some of the leverage points, again, Pim, visa bans for Russian officials, asset freezes as well. There could be an effort to toss Russia out of the G8 altogether. And then over the longer term, the biggest threats out there, kicking them out of the World Trade Organization, at least attempting to do that, freezing access to U.S. banks, European banks, and ultimately perhaps severing commercial ties. But, Pim, we're a long way from that. Still lots of road ahead in terms of trying to reach a diplomatic solution here, trying to get cooler heads to prevail. But right now, tensions seem to be going up instead of down.